I saw a headline in the Daily Beast that we're going to share, which really demonstrates how much, in the end, there's this perception that the media is liberal. It's not liberal. It's a courtier to power. So Mitch McConnell's been around a long time, and I'm sure he has a lot of relationships with journalists. So this is the Daily Beast, right? It's this very liberal outlet. Mitch McConnell could have been one of the greats, but Trump beat him. So the problem with Mitch McConnell, according to this, is not that he vowed to gum up Obama's entire political project in order to make him a one-term president. It's not that he broke all norms by refusing to vote for a Supreme Court justice, leaving the seat vacant. The problem,
he refused to give Merrick Garland a hearing.
Yes.
Forget about not voting for him. He wouldn't even start the process. Wouldn't even open up the process to the rest of the government.
Right. That's not the problem. The problem is that he did not vote to impeach Trump. That's the problem. So that's the kind of coverage that you're seeing from the supposedly liberal outlets on this. McConnell has become one of their own, as has any scumbag who opposes Trump in any way.
Yep.
The Cheneys, George Bush, all of these fucking criminals, all of these people who have done things that have had tremendously negative consequences, even for the political projects and figures they claim to care about. As long as they're opposed to Trump, they're rehabilitated. Now McConnell is a tragic figure, leaving the party in the hands of
it's unbelievable.
MAGA
you know
Republicans.
What? I didn't think we were going to do this. We didn't plan to do this, but I'm going to clip this separately. So why don't you read a couple paragraphs from that? I'm just curious to see that, because that headline is truly amazing. While Russell is bringing that up,
back.
That's okay. While he's bringing that up, it is truly amazing that they could write a headline like that, because until Trump came around, and even during Trump's first term, when Mitch McConnell mostly cooperated with Trump, but even before Trump's first term, Mitch McConnell was perceived quite accurately as the most destructive figure in American government. There's not a person who did more to actually tear down the American system than him, because of those two things that he mentioned. I mean, McConnell started out the Obama years saying, my goal is to make Barack Obama a one-term president. He then broke with norms not to grant a Supreme Court justice a hearing. I mean, no one person ushered in the era of just hyper-partisan power politics for power's sake than he did. And yet, the ultimate failing in their mind, in fact, the only failing in their mind now, is that he didn't vote to impeach Donald Trump, when their critique of Mitch McConnell went far beyond that, for years and years and years. So anyway, Russell, do you want to just read a sample of that? I'm just curious.
As a young Republican, he was ahead of the curve on civil rights. Only to see his party continue to back a man many considered to be a racist.
Wow.
2 decades ago, McConnell was the lead opponent against the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, a.k.a. McCain-Feingold, a well-meaning if ill-considered campaign finance reform legislation that had the unintended consequence of destroying political parties and ultimately giving us Donald Trump. It was signed into law by President George W. Bush, a Republican. Just 1 decade ago, then Senator Majority Leader McConnell beat back the radicals in his party, keeping them from squandering winnable seats. Today, the fight is over, and the bad guys won.
It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable how they just memory hole everything pre-2017.
Everything that doesn't fit the narrative.
This fucking guy was merciless in his efforts to take health care away from the working poor. We're not fans of Obamacare here. We're not fans of Obama, obviously. But one of the very few silver linings of that was the Medicaid expansion. And this guy was merciless in trying to take that away from families making $30,000 a year. That was his goal before World War III became his goal. I mean, this guy is a vicious, uncaring ghoul of the lowest order. Before 2017, it was common opinion amongst everyone to the left of Mitt Romney that this was the most destructive political figure in modern American history in terms of damaging our systems and undermining faith in our institutions, which is what they accuse Trump of now. And it was a given that Mitch McConnell was the most dangerous man in Washington. And now they're saying if he had only voted to impeach Trump, he would have been one of the greats?
He would have gone down history as one of the greats.
That's astounding. That is truly astounding.
They rehabilitated George Bush. They rehabilitated Dick Cheney. They have Bill Kristol as a frequent guest on the Sunday morning roundtables. All you have to do is not cross them on certain things like war, right? You can't call out the media as an enemy. There are just certain third rails you can't cross. And as long as you don't cross those, you want to shit all over the poor, you want to take away school lunches.
Yeah.
You can do all that. You can do all that. You just can't fuck with Lockheed Martin, and you can't fuck with Meet the Press. As long as you don't do that, they'll write glowing articles about you, and you can't embrace Trump. You can't be pro-Trump. As long as you fulfill those requirements, you're in the club.
Yeah, that is just incredible. Wow. From the Daily Beast. I mean, it figures that they'd write
Daily Beast.
Yeah. Yep. Not surprising, but surprising at the same time. I mean, that's just amazing. It really is.
Well, that's how you wind up with these fucking people telling you, George Bush, he was an honest Republican you could have disagreements with, but he was an honorable man.
Just incredible. Unbelievable.
What? I had a fucking lid say to me, George Bush never ruined anyone's Thanksgiving. What? Yeah. Where were you during the Bush years? Like not someone who had been a child, like someone who had been an adult during those years, who was old enough to remember.
McConnell denied Merrick Garland a hearing. He then forced Brett Kavanaugh through, and then forced Amy Coney Barrett through in the 11th hour of Trump's time in office, which everybody pointed out the hypocrisy to not grant Merrick Garland a hearing because it was too late in Obama's term, but you literally pushed a nominee through in 6 weeks, and that's why we don't have Roe v. Wade anymore. That guy, the guy who pushed that through, it wasn't Trump who made that happen. It was Mitch McConnell who made that happen, right?
Right.
Now he's the guy who, but for his support for Trump in the impeachment, would have gone down as one of the greats.
Right. And they're framing all of this. They framed it this way with McCarthy, too, that a more conservative, more hard right group is taking over. They're not more conservative. They're not more hard right. They're more populist.
Right.
That's what bothers you about them. Right. I'm not saying they're substantively better on, say, economics. Hawley tried to make some noises in that direction, but he never really followed through. Vance, another one, never really followed through to the logical conclusion of shifting the base of support for the Republican Party to blue-collar workers. Right. That the parties just need to just completely transform into their opposite numbers, as they have in the past. The Republican Party, the logical conclusion is they become the New Deal Democrats. That ultimately, if you want to serve this voting base that you now have, you need to actually offer them something. Like eventually they're going to have to face that you can't just keep going with libertarian economics when you have a blue-collar, working-class, working-poor voting base. So they're not a change in that, but as you point out, they're more anti-war.
Of course.
I mean, McConnell's signature is being pro-war and pro-Ukraine. They're not more conservative on abortion. They seem to be about the same. So how are they more conservative? They're not more conservative. They're just more populist. And you actually have some members who are going to ask questions when you want to send billions of dollars to the most corrupt country in Europe.
Exactly. And that seems to be the real sticking point, because that's something that the Daily Beast liberals and the neocon Republicans are in total lockstep on Ukraine, right? When there's a war to fund, Mitch McConnell's defiant stand against the more rising populist base of his party and saying, no, we must get this Ukraine funding through. Yeah, our border's important, but so is theirs. That is music to the Daily Beast ears. That wins you a lot of credibility back. They'll forget all about you're trying to crush people's health care if you go to bat for their war.
Well, and it is remarkable when you look at these people like Mitch McConnell that would fucking, would gladly windpipe a child trying to get a sloppy Joe on a lunch line, who's very concerned about making sure that Ukraine has the money to pay for all of those services for its people with our money.
Right, exactly. And that warms their heart.
Please clap.